In today's episode, we're going to talk about the steps you can take to minimize having nightmare corporate clients. I don't care if you've been at this for a while or you're just getting started, if you sell products or services or software, whatever it is, you're bound to bump into a prospect out there that could turn into a really difficult client. And difficult clients are one of the biggest silent profit saboteurs that there is. You can find yourself not only frustrated, but distracted from doing all the things that you need to do to keep your business running successfully. It'll take you away from working with your favorite clients and getting them great results. It will take you away from marketing and selling your services and continuing to grow the business. And it will really have you questioning your business, whether you're good at what you do, if this is even the direction you want to go. It's definitely a cancer to your business. But the good news is there are simple yet powerful steps that you can take to make sure this isn't a problem for you. So let's dive in. Step one, make sure that every one of your client agreements has a clearly marked emergency exit door. This is perhaps the most important thing you can do. And I know you're all savvy business owners. I know you would never, ever work with a client without having a signed agreement in place that has been drafted by a professional attorney who knows your business, your industry, and the laws of your state, right? But with that said, I can't tell you how many times we come across small business owners who have an agreement that is either completely silent to ending work with a client if they want to or for any reason at all, or what the terms of ending that relationship are. Is it 30 days notice? Do you have to give a refund? Do they owe you any money for time spent? What are the specifics that are going to dictate how you exit that relationship with that bad client? Obviously, what we really want to focus on is you not even getting into those situations to begin with. But should you find yourself in a situation with a client that is just draining the life out of you, you want to have that peace of mind that your agreement has already established what it's going to take to go ahead, wrap up that relationship, and move on with your business and your life. So step number one, you have to have it in every single client agreement. And if you haven't sat down in a while to meet with your attorney, to talk to him, her, or them about your agreements and what those terms are, this is a great time to do that. Step two, have a red velvet rope. You know those red velvet ropes that are outside of the hottest nightclubs in Las Vegas, LA, and New York City, and the bouncers only let in the customers they want to let in and they don't let anyone else in? You need one of those for your client club as well, and it needs to be a tight red velvet rope. What is your red velvet rope? Well, it's some type of qualification process that you put clients through, a series of questions, a conversation that you're having. Here in the corporate agent world, we call it the right fit conversation. And we have our clients have that right fit conversation right up front with a potential prospect before they get too far down the sales funnel with them. It's typically a 15 to 20 minute dialogue to really make sure that that client's going to be a right fit for you and your company and that there's a viable, real opportunity on the table for you. And it's not just about whether or not that client is looking for support in areas that you have expertise that's right in your wheelhouse. You're also looking for, is this the type of decision maker and organization that you're going to be able to do your best work with, that you're going to enjoy working with? One of my favorite questions to ask a prospective client is to have them tell me about a time that they have worked with another outside expert boutique firm, and the relationship was one that was particularly collaborative and rewarding. If they have trouble pointing pointing to a positive experience in the last few years where they've worked with someone on the outside and they've had a great working relationship where it was mutually rewarding and the outcomes were reached and they can speak really positively about it, that's going to give me serious pause about working with that decision maker or that organization. So one of the key things you want to do right away is really put together that list of questions that are important to you. What are you looking for in a client relationship? Do you need that client to be communicative, collaborative, responsive? Do they need to be open to candid feedback? And are they willing to look at places where they really have an opportunity for improvement? Or are they just looking for someone who's going to come in and be a yes person? So have that red velvet rope and use it early and often in your prospect conversations. Step 3, set clear expectations both in writing and verbally. This is a big one that people miss. And it's really 2 parts to it. First, you have to figure out what are your expectations. What do you need in a client relationship in order to be able to do your best work? But once you know what those expectations are and how you need each side of the table to come together to work, it's then important to communicate. And what we typically see from consultants, coaches, and other small business owners is that they either mention the expectations in passing or they bury those expectations somewhere in an agreement or a proposal, but no one ever reads it. And so what ends up happening is there's sort of this drive-by that's done around expectations, and in the prospect's mind, it's never really been covered. So define your expectations and then make it a point to clearly articulate those expectations in writing. We actually recommend putting those expectations in multiple places. We like to see them in the actual signed client agreements. We like to see them in proposals and or engagement letters, depending on what you're using. We like to see them in the onboarding documents for your client, so those first 30 days that you're getting started working with a client, and we like to see them reiterated in email. So we really like to see those expectations for your clients repeated over and over and over again. And in addition to that, you need to make it a point to actually have a conversation with the prospect to go through those expectations. A good time to do it is in the co-creation meeting when you're deciding how you're even going to work together, to set right up front that idea of when we work together for this to work, here's what we're going to need from you. And then we recommend that you go through those expectations one more time during your kickoff meeting with your client. And I don't care what you're selling. I don't care if you're in the creative space, in the PR space, if you're selling software, coaching services, training, speaking services, consulting, whatever it is, there needs to be a kickoff meeting. And that's a perfect place to pull out the agreement or the proposal or the onboarding document and walk back through those expectations again. Step 4, have a process for everything that you do with your clients. From the way you have that right fit conversation and the co-creation meeting, to the way you present your engagement letter or proposal to them, to the way that you onboard them, to every type of interaction you have with your client, you need a process. Processes are a form of control, but they're also there to make sure you get a repeatable result. So if you have a process for everything that you do with your clients, you're building in rigor to the way you work. You can have clear expectation on your end that every time you go through these steps, you're able to get a positive outcome with your client. But you're also teaching your client your level of professionalism. There's a great expression that we're constantly teaching our clients how to treat us. And so when we have processes and we're following them and we're using them and we're articulating them and we're making sure everything's done in a really professional way, it really shows our clients that, you know what, this isn't a free-for-all. When we work together, there's going to be guidelines, and we're not going to jump just because you say jump. And if you miss a deadline, then that doesn't mean that requires us to work nights or weekends. So put those processes in place. It's going to save you a lot of time. It's going to help you build scale into your business. And it's also going to help you keep your clients on track. And there's one more thing that having processes do as well. They bring to the surface the clients that are going to be a problem. And it's going to come out very early on in the relationship. Because if you've already put in your client agreements that you have processes and you've communicated what those things are and you've gone over it with them multiple times in writing and verbally, and now you're starting to follow those very processes and standard operating procedures that you have and how you interact and engage with your clients, and they're not following them, then you have an immediate red flag before the relationship gets too far, before you've put in a lot of time and energy and effort, and it starts to get really tricky about if you cut that client, who owes who, what, and when. You're gonna know right at the very beginning that a conversation is in order with this client before things get any more off track. Step 5, speak up quickly when you do have an issue. Despite taking all the other steps that we talked about, there is the possibility that someone makes it through your red velvet rope, that someone nods yes, yes, yes through all the times you're reviewing the expectations with them. They get all of your processes and steps and they yes, yes, yes. But then all of a sudden they stop following what they agreed to follow. They stop communicating with you. They start missing deadlines. They start adding more things in and you're getting scope creep. They start blaming you for things that they never told you or constantly changing things on you. Whatever it is that's causing that difficulty, you have to speak up quickly. It's not a pot of marinara sauce and it's not a fine wine. The issue is not going to get better over time. In fact, what happens is actually a double-edged sword. Number one, every time you don't speak up when a client is really sort of going off the agreement, you're setting an expectation that that's okay. You're saying to them, you know what, it's all right. I know we said we had these expectations, we had these deadlines, we have these processes and ways of working with our client, but you know what, you're missing the deadlines, you're not doing what we agreed to, but it's fine. So now you're creating a situation where they're just going to continue to do it. The other part is it gets more and more awkward and uncomfortable to have that conversation, and you start getting more frustrated and more resentful of the client. And typically when that starts to build up, it not only bleeds into everything else in your business, but it really makes it difficult when you finally do decide to have that conversation. Instead of the conversation being from a neutral emotion place and one that's productive, it tends to just all come pouring out and getting the best of us, and it really isn't the best conversation. It doesn't feel good after the fact. It's usually not great for your business, and it's not great for your reputation or your ongoing relationship. And I'll tell you what, this is a really small world, and people move around from different companies and different organizations. So you really want to handle these things professionally and early. And if you've done steps 1 through 4, it really makes having that conversation pretty easy because you can refer back to all the other things that you've provided them and remind them of what the agreement was. All right, so follow those 5 steps. You won't prevent ever having a nightmare client in your business, but it'll really take the stress off. Make sure you're working with clients that you really love working with, that you're able to do your very best work, and most of all, that you continue to love your business. Okay, now we want to hear from you. Which one of these steps was most valuable to you? Or do you have a step that you're taking in your business to minimize having a nightmare client? We would love to hear it. The best place to leave us a comment is over where all the action happens on thecorporateagent.com. And if this video was helpful to you, make sure you like it and be sure to subscribe to our channel so that you get updates each time we release a new video. All right, until next time, this is Angelique signing off.